part two of Kin or Kin. I'm still don't know if I'm saying it right. um, excuse me, I just ate. It's the next day, as you can tell and stuff. So, anyways, let's continue on with the review. So, Willem DeFranco's character goes in the freaking police station, guns blazing, and I'm like, me and my friend are like, what the fuck? So, obviously, you guys know that. So, after that, um, they were shooting up the cops and shit, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, again, going back, if I wanted this movie, I was expecting this movie to at least have fun with itself. A lot of people might say it might take itself too seriously, but hey, judging what the characters are going through, some of the stuff that are going through, you kind of see why. But at the same time, some of this stuff could have been prevented if you just called the cops. But what if the cops didn't do anything? Most people are like, that's not realistic. What if the cops didn't do anything? Don't tell me that's not realistic, motherfucker, because it fucking is, man. Don't tell me that won't be realistic, man. We live in a time that if you're color, no one's not gonna save you. So don't tell me that shit. And I'm bringing no race or none of that shit in here, because that is a fact, and you fucking goddamn know that, people. Don't tell me that shit. Moving the fuck on. This whole thing that happens in the climax, the kid gets his gun back because they confiscate it eventually, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Plus, they don't know what the fuck to do with the goddamn thing. What are they going to do with it? So, they could sell it. Bring it for parts or something and figure out what it is. But what happens is that, the kid eventually has the gun. He saves his brother because his brother's about to get shot. He's taken from his own freaking cell. And Willem DeFranco's character is like dragging, well, not really dragging, his men is dragging him and shit. And Willem DeFranco's about to like shoot him and shit. And then his brother comes in with the gun, the BF and G, and he's like, get away from my brother. Like, that shit was awesome. All right, I'm telling you, some of the stuff in this movie is really awesome. Some of the stuff I'm just like, but overall, that shit was awesome. And I wish there was more with the gun, in my opinion. Hey, who knows? There could be a sequel. Could be. Judging what... I haven't watched no one's review of this movie, but judging from the thumbnails, I'm just like, someone needs to talk about this movie with probably a broader light. But also bring out maybe the flaws of what I saw from the movie. If you see it, and maybe that's why a lot of people hate it, then okay, but I can still see a sequel happening for this movie. I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry, but whatever. People just want fine art nowadays, right? I want fine wine. And then when they get a movie that's shit, they still sometimes think it is fine wine. And I'm just like, so you want fine wine, and then when you get shit, you still call it fine wine. Not all of you are like that, but some people are starting to act like that. And I'm like, what's wrong with you people? Are you getting paid? Like, that's why you can't trust some of these high YouTubers. I'm dead serious. I'm calling you all out. I don't give a fuck. How could you trust any of these motherfuckers? I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Or you're just saying that because you don't have enough subs. When you look at them, and you see how they act, and you look at their thumbnails and shit, do you really want to see a person's thumbnail with their eyes wide open and their face in the front of you? Come on, man. Come on. Even when I made, what is it? Sidetrack. But that doesn't matter. Going back to the movie. This whole thing. Eventually the kid and the main kid and his brother eventually give up. They give up. And the SWAT team is literally about to go in and get it. Then these freaking these bikes come. It's these guys with the helmets. And then they try to stop him and shit. Then all of a sudden, boom, time stopped. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden, Willem DeFranco's character is like frozen. He's about to shoot the main character's brother. He's about to shoot him and shit. But it's all slow motion and it's stopped and everything like that. It looks pretty dope. Most people are like, oh, that's all what their budget went to. Oh, I guess so, huh? If you're going to criticize it that much, fucking cunt. Um, so after that, eventually the people with the helmet are like this. They're like, wait, 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 because the kid's pointing the gun at them because he's like, oh shit, yeah, the kid can actually see what's actually happening when everything's paused. And most people are like, how could he do that? There's a reason for that. A reason. So eventually, I will get to it though. Eventually, he grabs the gun and he points it at the people that are about to go through the glass in a way. Like they're going through the glass, but they're not breaking the glass. Basically, it's kind of cool. It's one of those kind of effects, you know. So it's like going through a portal, basically, you know. So they go in, obviously, and the kid's pointing the gun, and he's like, wait, wait. Because eventually you start hearing their voices, but it sounds like an alien voice for a minute. So you'll be like, oh, okay, maybe this is just what they look like, and they really are not helmets. And then eventually, and I'm like, oh, it is a helmet. Now I can collect it. Because I thought about, like, hey, if you wanted to have it as a souvenir, just have a gun there. Freaking helmet there, and if it was an actual head of somebody, then I'll just keep the gun. But then it's this motherfucker. I literally just got done. Literally a few years ago, I just got done watching Black Panther, and this guy is here, and this guy is there, man. We got freaking, one of the chosen ones from Uganda, So it was cool to see him there, in my opinion. And when you find out that he's actually, spoiler alert, I'm saying that right now. If you don't want to get spoiled with this, I'll say this right now. Spoiler. So leave, watch the movie before I spoil that. Okay, you done? Okay, good. You find out that, how come I want to say Haley Joel Osment? That's not even fucking the actor's name. Totally different actor. Why do I thought about that? So, Fearmonger from Black Panther is in this movie. Yes. And he's actually not that bad for a few seconds that he's in. And he points out the scar that the little kid has because he has the same exact scar as the kid has. And you'd be like, there's a backstory of how the kid got that scar. And you'd be like, that's him from the future. That's when I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because I'm a type of person that if you see the same self, I look at the Back to the Future type thing, and most people are like, hey, was it Endgame didn't use the Back to the Future logic, and shit. I'm like, they didn't. There's a whole bunch of different logics with time travel and shit, but with me, if you see somebody that is the exact person as you, especially if you're small, doesn't matter if you're a kid and you see yourself, you have changed something that could literally ripple the effects of the universe in the timeline. And that shit is real. Most people are like, what are you talking about? That shit is real. The government doesn't want to tell you that, okay? I'm not going to get deep into that, but that's why they put it in your movies, you guys. And if you guys think that is stupid, then you really don't know what's going on around here then. You are terribly naive as fuck. Literally. I'm sorry to tell you that. You can't be this dumb anymore. You can't be this dumb. It's common fucking sense at this point. Common fucking sense. So, then after that, the main character, his adult form, the main character's adult form, takes the gun back. At first I'm like, but he takes the gun back. And he says, don't worry. You'll be needed in the future. Because obviously it's him. Because it turns out that in this timeline, he was not supposed to have the gun to begin with. He was not supposed to even go to that abandoned building. And I'm just like, I like how they're doing this, to be quite honest, because it insinuates that even if this movie did fail, you can make another movie with a different fucking title. And it could be the same movie from the same universe. In a way, it's genius. But at the same time, if people don't like it, then they don't like it, yes. Mainly because, what do you want me to tell you? I don't know what to tell you. I could say your IQ is low or something like that, but I'm not going to tell you that. You might not like it. You might not think it's real. You might not think it's just, you think it's all hokey dokey and shit, and probably could ruin the movie and shit. But you know what? Sometimes in movies, they do that shit. But believe it or not, people, for crying out loud, those TV shows that actually have people that quote unquote, you know how have you ever seen a show, quote unquote, what is it, Happy, that show? There's a character that's basically walking in Hollywood, I think, and he's watching a shitty movie, and they tell him, "You like it?" And he knows it's shit, and he's like, he passes it, and everyone claps. You mean to tell me Hollywood doesn't do that shit? You mean to tell me they're not? You mean to tell me they're not wasting money like that, like candy? Sink that in, man. Because there's a lot of problems with that shit in this world, just connecting to that. And that's not the only thing. So that's one of the reasons why I did enjoy this movie for what it was. Because it actually tells truth shit. And a lot of people are going to go over their heads here, think that it's just bullshit. Look, I understand storytelling. Oh yeah, I understand storytelling. That's why a lot of people love Star Wars and Harry Potter and the MCU. Because the storytelling. And to be honest, those three things that I just mentioned are literally what we used to be back in Egypt, back in Atlantis. Where's Atlantis? You're sitting on it. But I'm not going to go deeper into that because this is a review of a movie. But I just want to tell you how I felt when I saw this movie. People want to feel different things when they watch movies. This is how I felt when I watched this movie. Maybe you might see in a different light now. Maybe you actually realize, hey, maybe this motherfucker actually knows what the fuck's actually going on around here. Even though he might not be 100% right. And I'm not saying I'm always right. I will always say that I do know. But you don't know what you don't know, right? Exactly. And then with this movie, it shows, literally, it again, going back to part one, it kind of reminds me of what Toa Kid was. You find something, you find like a corpse, and then you put on their gear, or you take their weapon and you go on an adventure, which in a way, this movie kind of does that. Oh, and by the end, then the kid, his older self, eventually helps his brother and everything like that. He doesn't, because the main villain was trying to shoot his older brother, the main character's older brother. Then that didn't happen. Obviously, they moved the bullet and everything like that, which is kind of hilarious. They literally pointed to him and shit. That was funny. And then they leave to another portal, another ward. Then the kid goes back down, and that's it. And tells his brother we're going to be, before that, he told his brother that everything was going to be okay before shit ensue. But yeah, everything will be okay. Because did you see your future self? If your future self did that and you saw that, would you tell yourself, my life is not good? I would have looked at that and be like, dude, my life came out. Look at me, dude. I'm a badass. What happens to me here affects me along the future. Maybe that's why in a way this ended up the way it ended up in the timeline sort of sense, But then eventually the brother has to leave, and I think the cops are not done talking with the kid either because they're like, where's the gun? And he's like, me and my friend were both like, what gun? I literally would have said that. I would have, if I was the kid, I would have been like, what gun? You can't find it. Good luck, bitch. Yeah, you saw me use it. You saw me have it, but you would never find it. Where is it? I don't know. And you can't say that I'm lying because I'm actually telling the truth. I don't know. Someone took it, and now it's gone. Who took it? Someone that literally is me, but you won't believe that shit. You see? It all goes vice versa here. It's kind of funny how I do that with my videos if people pay attention. You know? So that's just me. And then eventually the kid looks in the, in the other side where the cops are, and those people there, how they put like, make sure people don't get by when the cops are like, hey, don't get by here and shit. You know that. The stripper comes back and she calls his name. He looks and then he smiles, and that is the movie. That's the movie. So how do I feel about it? There was some parts that I enjoyed. There was some parts that I was just like, how come you just doing this to put the story longer? You could have called the cops. The brother could have told his little brother what happened to the father, literally in the beginning, instead of just dragging that shit on. I know most people be like, oh, but that's part of the story, that's all that. But I'm like, this could have been differently. This whole thing could have been differently. Those are the two things that gave me, oh wait, the third thing that gave me a gripe. This movie should have had more fun the way it should have been. Maybe it wanted to do that before, but then the budget. But this movie looked like it should have been more fun than it should have been. Especially when you look at the poster. And the synopsis when you read it. In the back of the, cover if you see the DVD and shit. At least in my opinion. So what do I give this movie? I haven't rated movies in a long time. I haven't done movie reviews in a long time, so bear with me. I think I do have my book around here, but I don't want to look at it. I just want to see it from the top of my head. I've give this movie a C plus. Just good. I was gonna give it C minus. Could be better, but it's not. Most people might lean more to that if they did watch this movie already. But the people that haven't, and for what I felt from it and everything that I told you about in this whole movie, this whole video, I give it a C. Alright, so I'm not saying I'm Shakespeare with my movies. Alright, I'm not saying I'm, Albert Einstein with my movies, but I'm going to feel what I want to feel with these movies. If no one doesn't like it, okay, that's fine. But this is how I feel with this movie. Will I get the DVD? Not anytime soon now. Since I just watched it, I'm not like hoping to get it now, But I'll say this. If there is a movie you just want to watch one day on a Saturday night, Friday night, just to relax and chill, this is the movie. Yeah, this is a relax and chill movie. You might complain about some of the stuff. You might be like, oh man, this could have put more for it. But what it does, it's fine. You're just watching it, eating popcorn, and that's really it. You ate your popcorn, and that's it. Most people might hate that. Other people might be like, oh, it depends what type of moviegoer are you. Me? Sometimes when I sit in a movie, I like to be like, all right, movie, what you gonna tell me? And then it tells me in the beginning, and I'll be like, I'm bored with it. And then if it changes along the way, in a bad way, I'm going to be like, movie, you had something. What are you doing? Like, when a movie tries to have fun at one, you know how some movies will be like, in the beginning, it's having fun, but then when it gets to like the middle and end, it just drags or just becomes dead, and you're like, what happened here? You were on having fun, I was on board, and then all of a sudden, you fell, and you decided to do stupid shit. And I'm like, this is what this movie kind of reminds me a little bit. It just reminds me of sometimes you're doing good stuff, but at the same time, there's certain things you're dragging that you don't really have to drag. You really don't. For crying out loud, you probably could have had more development if you didn't drag those scenes at all. Have you thought of that? No, you didn't. And that's what the biggest problem I have with this movie. which is why the rating is literally. Oh yeah, you most people be like, wait a minute, what? No, I thought you gave it a rating. Oh yeah, you thought I did, huh? You thought I did, but no. This final rating gets the same shit.